So I decided to try something different and do some videos just sort of in a chat format. Frankly, it's a lot easier to do, and I thought it might be a little more personal. So hopefully you like it. And tonight I want to talk about Mike Bloomberg. As you may know, or I'm sure if you have television, you've seen the ads, he has entered the Democratic presidential primary. And with that has come a lot of articles sort of talking about some issues that he has had in the past. One of them, which a lot of people have talked about, are his stop and frisk policies while he was mayor of New York. Another issue, which I find equally as problematic, is apparently as a employer, he has a Me Too problem. So I want to talk about that in a little more detail than you may have heard if you watched the Democratic primary last night. Elizabeth Warren, rightfully so, brought up these issues. She obviously didn't get into a lot of detail, so I kind of want to talk about what I found when I did my research on this, and I was pretty shocked. I want to talk about sort of one of the first articles I found. Apparently, it came out just in December of 2019. And it was done by ABC News, and the title. Let me, get this. The title: Bloomberg's sexist remarks fostered company culture that degraded women, lawsuit alleges. And the byline says, Bloomberg allegedly told employee who had just announced pregnancy to kill it. I mean, are you kidding me? Like, kill it? The article did say that he denied that that's what he meant, or I don't know, that it was a joke or something like that, just something absurd. But it's an article I would really highly recommend you read if you want some specifics about some of the issues that he's had in his past. There was another article that came out in The Atlantic that was September of 2019, and that one is titled, I'd do her, Mike Bloomberg and the underbelly of Me Too. So that's another article. I read it, and I have to say, when I was reading it, I mean, I was just like, my blood was boiling. I'm like, this guy, remind you of anybody? Just really some gross, just super gross stuff. So basically, I don't want to go through what's in all of the articles, but to give you just the highlights. So what it says is, it's under the combination of the two. They are similar. They have some crossover stuff. That apparently there are as many as 64 sexual harassment and discrimination claims against Bloomberg by females in connection with their employment at, I assume it was Bloomberg News. But the thing is, and this came up last night in the debates, many of the plaintiffs settled. And as part of the settlement, which is not uncommon, they had to sign a non-disclosure agreement, or NDA for short. So therefore they can't publicly discuss their case. And what was interesting is Elizabeth Warren and Joe Biden got on him last night in the debate and told him that he should let those women out of those NDAs so that they can talk about their case. So he kind of, he's like, we're not going to do that. It's an agreement, blah, 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 blah. I thought it was pretty bold of them to actually ask him to do that. I thought, it was like, that's awesome. But anyway, so, the bottom line is, the allegations are crude and sexually inappropriate comments. There was another one, and this one I want to talk about, that apparently, allegedly, and one of his employees was telling him that she was having trouble finding a nanny. And he made some comment like, allegedly, I have to keep saying that, it's a fucking baby. All you have to do is find a black woman who barely speaks English or something like that. And something about a burning building. I'm not sure. I didn't really follow that one. But you know, yeah, he has issues with racism as well, as indicated by his stop and frisk policies, which they did get into last night at the debate as well. I do want to play a clip for you of Elizabeth Warren takedown. I thought it was brilliant. I was like, go Liz. And I think it was really actually, she was probably the best person to do it. I'm sure any of them could do it, because these articles, I missed them, but they've been out there. So she was very prepared and she did a great job. There was something else in one of them. Apparently, this was in the ABC News one. They talked about, this was a clip actually. So what it was is ABC News also did, in conjunction with that article, they did a segment on Good Morning America, surprisingly, about Bloomberg and about the Me Too issues, which I actually found kind of surprising. I don't watch Good Morning America, but so in that though, they talked about this book that apparently, or I guess it was more like a pamphlet, that a former, I guess a staffer or a top staffer or whatever, in the 1990s put together as a birthday present for him. I guess it was kind of a gag gift or something, or I don't know, or a joke on him. And it called the Portable Bloomberg, The Wit and Wisdom of Michael Bloomberg. What's interesting about that, and I don't know how ABC got a copy, but in that, a lot of the comments that were in some of the lawsuits were actually in that book. That apparently, I mean, he has a history of, I guess, making rude and crude and inappropriate comments to women. So within the company, it was no big surprise. So, I mean, that at least gives a little credibility to the lawsuits. Although I would say when you have 64, that's a pretty big number. It's not like one or two that, oh, maybe they just want money or something. I don't typically think that way, but some people do. But 64, like, that seems like a bigger issue and gives more credibility overall to the claims. I found one more article I wanted to talk to you about. This was really, really something. It was published last week. It was February 13th in GQ, of all places. The author was female. The title is "Why is Bloomberg's Long History of Egregious Sexism Getting a Pass?" Now, this has a flip side to it, which I think is really important. I'm going to read the quote. I'm going to read a quote from it. The author says this: Bloomberg's sexism, like that of fellow New York City billionaire Donald Trump, has been prolific and well documented, but for some reason the stories about him don't seem to have taken hold. He is still being embraced by the Democratic establishment as a viable option for its presidential nominee. He surged to third place in several 2020 polls this week. The Democratic National Committee changed its rules to allow him to participate in the next primary debate. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi said his presence in the primary is a positive one. I really actually highly recommend that whole article. And I really like this point that she brings up. I mean, the truth of the matter is a lot of the allegations against him are really no different than what, the Democrats accused Trump of doing in 2016, in the 2016 race. I mean, since then, I don't really pay attention to them. But, remember that grab her by the, whatever, tape, I mean, that was all to try to discredit him as being a womanizer and treating women badly and all this. And why would the Democratic Party pick a candidate who they seem to, or even allow a candidate like this into the primaries? I mean, this was not secret. I didn't know about it, and I'm sure a lot of you didn't know about it. But in that club, apparently they knew about it. So I just find it very interesting that they would actually think that this is a good candidate. And it really says more about the Democratic Party, as far as I'm concerned, than really Bloomberg. And I'll finish up. Now, a guy like this, he's got this, he's got, why this is important is, a lot of women tend to be Democratic, and these kind of things are real issues for them. And the other thing is the stop and frisk. I mean, Democrats tend to try to pull the black vote. And when you have a record like stop and frisk, and I'm not going to really get into that, that's a whole nother topic, which deserves a lot of attention as well. So, it's going to be hard for him. I mean, he can pay people, black people, to get up and endorse him, but I think the voters they're not stupid. So that's what I think that's all. I mean, and one other final point, the Democratic Party is like, oh, vote blue no matter who. To be honest with you, Bloomberg's a Republican. And just because he changed, his party affiliation over the years, the bottom line is most of his policies are Republican. So that vote blue no matter who is quite frankly bullshit. If he is given the nomination, basically we're going to have a general election between two Republicans. Well, actually, I don't even know if that's true, because Trump was probably a Democrat a lot longer than Bloomberg. Bloomberg, he's been a Democrat for, I don't know how many months now. So, I don't know if people know that Donald Trump was actually a Democrat for years. And then he switched over to Republican, I think primarily to run in the 2016 election. So, it's like, I don't know. It seems to me the Democratic Party really doesn't, care about having a sexist asshole in the White House. Personally, I do, and I'm not planning on voting for either one of them if that's the choice in the 2020 general election. But everybody gets to make make their own decision. So I'm not trying to tell anybody how to vote. But I did want to give you this information. I hope if you're interested in this topic of his Me Too issues, as it were, take a look at those articles. I think you'll find them rather enlightening. So hopefully you found this helpful.
About who we're running against. A billionaire who calls women fat broads and horse-faced lesbians. And no, I'm not talking about Donald Trump. I'm talking about Mayor Bloomberg. Democrats are not going to win if we have a nominee who has a history of hiding his tax returns, of harassing women, and of supporting racist policies like redlining and stop and frisk.